Hello viewers, welcome to this module on occupational hazards associated with the agricultural and allied sector, zoonotic diseases. This forms a part of the course MEV 002 Environmental and Occupational Hazards. I introduce myself as Dr. Sushmitha Baskar, working in the discipline of Environmental Studies at the School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. Let us now see the learning objectives of this module. After listening to and reading this module, you should be able to explain the various zoonotic diseases and the effects that they cause on the human beings. Now, our planet species are dependent on the ecosystem service functions which are driven by the climate stability. Good health is one of the most important aspects for every human being, without which life itself becomes a burden. So health and environment, these are intricately and directly linked to each other. And if you have ever wondered, when you live in a pristine and clear, uncontaminated environment, the effects are obviously seen on the human system. Now, have you ever wondered why you get sick after rains and after floods? Most of us would end up with getting some viral flu, conjunctivitis, gastrointestinal upset, certain other problems. So maybe this is because there is some contamination in the environment, or the environment quality has become poor. Now, in regions where there is heavy flooding, people wade in these waters, especially in India, in Mumbai and also in New Delhi, in Chennai. We have seen certain floods that have occurred in the past. And people wade in the waters. You have seen the buses are floating, the automobiles are totally drowned under these waters, submerged under the water. Then people, when they wade, they are infected by various skin diseases, helminthiasis that is caused due to certain parasites and nematodes. All this can occur. So maybe there have been changes in the weather and climate, and this has influenced the health of human population in the past, and it has caused several epidemics and pandemics such as cholera, plague, the Spanish flu, and right now the COVID-19 pandemic. So climate, diseases and health. So now we know that climate is directly responsible for the distribution of different types of insects, mollusks and even species of the higher genera. These are all vectors of several diseases. Now recently India experienced a spike in the disease such as chikungunya, West Nile fever, dengue virus, malaria and so on. So all this can be related to the environmental quality, the climate and of course which is affecting the health of human beings. Vector-borne diseases. As the name indicates, these are transmitted through certain vectors. So vectors are living organisms that can transmit infectious disease among human beings and from animals to humans. Majority of the diseases are spread by the blood-sucking insects, and these insects, while taking their blood meal, they can infect another person when they bite. Mosquitoes, ticks, flies, then sandfly, fleas, bed bugs, these can all bite a person at any time of the day or the night, and even some freshwater aquatic snails also are vectors for certain diseases. And historically, the vector-borne disease have been recorded in different regions in various climates. The most important one which I would like to state is the African sleeping sickness, which was found in the places in Africa. The African sleeping sickness. So this is caused by the parasite Trypanosoma brucei, and the vector is the tsetse fly. These diseases are highest in the tropical and the subtropical areas, and those people who are infected, you will see that they keep sleeping throughout the day and the night, and that is why it is known as the African sleeping sickness, because it affects the neurological system and it stops functioning. So transmission occurs by biting during the insect's blood meal, and the disease can infect millions of humans each year, and they are mostly transmitted through the mosquitoes, through the ticks and also the fleas, and these can be actually severe and also debilitating in certain cases. Trypanosomiasis. There are three species in this. You have the Trypanosoma brucei gambiense, which are the slow onset chronic trypanosomiasis in the humans, and this is common in the central and western Africa. Then you have the Rhodesiense species. This is a fast onset acute trypanosomiasis in humans, and this is common in southern and eastern Africa, and the animals and the livestock are the primary reservoirs in this case. Then you have the Trypanosoma brucei. This causes animal trypanosomiasis along with several other species of trypanosoma, and this is not infective to the human beings. Chagas fever, this is also a very common vector-borne disease. It is also known as American trypanosomiasis. It is caused by Trypanosoma cruzi. Now the vector, the triatomine bug is the vector, and here again 6 million to 7 million people are infected globally, and it occurs in the Latin America where people are affected with this disease. This is also transmitted by contact with the feces and urine of the infected blood sucking bugs. Now usually they bite an exposed area of the skin such as the face, and that is why it is also referred to as the kissing bug, and the bug will defecate and urinate closely to the bite, and then that can enter the wound. So instantly that the parasite can enter the body when the person actually smears the face or any other skin part into the eyes or mouth or any other skin break, and then it can enter the body. Chagas fever, the symptoms include the skin lesions or swelling of the eyelids. It can include fever, headache, enlarged lymph glands, muscle pain, difficulty in breathing, swelling, and abdominal and chest pain. Now, during the chronic phase, the parasites are hidden mainly in the heart and in the digestive muscles. 30% of the patients, they will suffer from cardiac disorders, and 10% can have certain digestive and also neurological disorders. Now in the zoonosis or the transmission of the zoonotic diseases, this includes the exposure to the bacteria and the virus, and a range of workers, even the outdoor workers, are potentially at risk because they are exposed to the venomous animals and also the aquatic animals. The terrestrial venomous animals include spiders, the snakes and the scorpions, which have certain poisonous glands and that can emit the certain toxic material. In the same way, certain aquatic animals like the stinging fish and the sea snakes, they also have certain toxins which can be released into the body. So practicing good personal hygiene, wearing protective clothing, undertaking the preventative measures and vaccination can minimize the risk of certain animal borne diseases and which are infecting millions of people. Now let us categorize the zoonotic disease into several types. We have the mosquito borne diseases. In this, the first is dengue. There was once upon a time when Delhi was even unprepared to handle several cases of dengue, but right now there are sufficient wards and the beds, and we are able to tackle the case of dengue more efficiently. This affects millions of people globally, and in India the epidemics have occurred and they are affecting population every year where there is stagnant water after the rains, there is flooding. These are some of the causes that can cause the sudden rise in the mosquito borne diseases. Now the Aedes aegypti and albopictus, these mosquitoes are the vectors for the dengue virus, and approximately 40% of the global population are living in the mosquito and dengue risk regions which are risky for their survival. Now the symptoms include high fever, headache, rash, muscle and joint pain, and sometimes there can even be certain shock and also bleeding. Chikungunya. Now again there has been a re-emergence of this chikungunya in many of the southern states, and the changing weather and the climate variability has caused this re-emergence. It is caused by the chikungunya virus, and it is said that since it has a single serotype, once a person is affected with chikungunya, then he has a lifetime immunity. But it is not so in the case of dengue, which has 4 different serotypes. Now this is also spread through the mosquitoes Aedes albopictus and Aedes aegypti, and the chikungunya is caused by the arbovirus species. It was first reported in Tanzania in 1952, and the word chikungunya, because you attain a bent posture, that comes from the African Kimakonde language, meaning bent posture or to become contorted, because the posture becomes contorted and their people are unable to walk. The symptoms usually occur after a week of exposure, and we can have high fever, severe headache, rashes on the body. There can be severe myalgia, muscle pain, joint pain. All the small joints can be swollen in the feet, toe and your fingers, and extreme pain in all the joints, and it takes months to recover. Sometimes it can even remain for years together. So this is a risky disease which has been affecting millions of people globally. So this is one of some figures for the chikungunya, and nowadays they say that the chikungunya mosquito, this Aedes species, it is not biting only in the daytime, but it can bite all through the day as well as the night. So these are the symptoms that are noted. You can see in this, it is explained well for your better understanding. The Nipah virus. This is again a zoonotic virus that is transmitted from animals to humans, and this Nipah virus, the natural reservoir is a bat species, that is Pteropus. And certain plant species, if you have seen, they require the bats in order to pollinate their flowers. So the pollination is required and it can be done only by the bat species. And so the bats live near those plants in certain dark areas, or like certain caves, or which are not densely populated by the human beings, or where there is less entry of the human and other animal species. And they are transmitted through contaminated food and directly between people, and the symptoms include headache, dizziness, respiratory distress, acute respiratory illness, and also encephalitis. The virus affects the livestock and it brings about a large economic loss among the farmers. The WHO reports that there are direct linkages to climate change, deforestation, and the transmission of this virus. Again, losing your natural habitats and deforestation. So human anthropogenic reasons and interventions are also affecting the climate variability and the food requirement of the bats. And when we go about the deforestation, then the bats are getting nearer to the human habitation. That can also be a cause for the transmission of the disease. First, this disease was identified in 1998 in Malaysia. Malaria. This is a not new disease, and this has been affecting millions of people globally. It is transmitted by the female Anopheles mosquito. The causative organism is the protozoan species Plasmodium, and that is transmitted through the mosquitoes. So this Plasmodium, it multiplies and the liver is the main organ that it targets, and the 5 species are known to cause malaria in humans. They are the Plasmodium vivax, ovale, falciparum, malariae, and knowlesi. The parasites multiply in the liver, and after an infected mosquito bites, it can also completely destroy the red blood cell. The symptoms include shivering, high fever, headache, seizures, and vomiting, fatigue, and also body pain all over the area. That was about malaria. Now we come on to the tick-borne diseases. So all those were the mosquito-borne diseases. Under the tick-borne, the first one is spotted fever, rickettsia. This disease is also caused by certain groups of bacteria, but they again require a vector in order to transmit the disease. So it is transmitted through certain infected mites and the ticks. Bacteria belong to the order Rickettsiales and the genera Rickettsia. And in the Rickettsia species, there are 2 subgroups that includes the spotted fever group and the typhus group. The transmission is through bites from the ectoparasites like lice, fleas, and mites. And people have been affected by inhaling the bacteria. And those people who have been wandering and who go for the travel and safaris, walking in the bushes for densely forested areas for hunting purposes, especially in Africa, they have been known to be infected by the spotted fever rickettsia. Tularemia. So this is transmitted from rabbits to the human beings, and it infects animals, especially the rabbits. Hares are also infected with this disease. The human being can be infected by a tick and a deer fly bite when the infected animal can contact us, and also by drinking the contaminated water and by inhaling the contaminated aerosol also from the agricultural dust. Flea-borne diseases, that is the next category. In this first comes the plague. So the plague is caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, the rodent flea bites which are the carriers of the bacterium, and the symptoms include large swollen lymph nodes in the groin, armpit or neck. Then fever can be accompanied with shivering and muscle pains. Then the disease spread in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Madagascar and Peru, especially in the year 2017. Historically, this disease was prevalent in the 14th century and it wiped out the several of the populations, and 50 million deaths occurred, and this was also known as the Black Death, which was also a pandemic. The non-vector borne diseases. So these diseases also cause infection in human beings every year, and they are transmitted from birds, cattle, and so on. Some examples are the avian influenza and the swine flu epidemics, which were infectious and they affected several people worldwide. So this occurred in 2007, 2008 and 9, where the swine flu epidemic was also high. Then climate variability, they say, is a factor for the increasing incidence of these diseases. Brucellosis. This disease is a zoonotic infection caused by the bacteria of the Brucella genus, and the human beings, when they are in contact with the cattle, infected cattle and by consuming and the ingestion of the contaminated food product and inhaling the infected aerosols, then they can be affected. This is also referred to as Mediterranean fever, Malta fever, gastric remittent fever and also undulant fever. Brucellosis is a common zoonotic infection worldwide, and the bacteria occur as small intracellular coccobacilli and live in the reproductive organs of animals such as cattle, and they can lead to sterility and also abortions in the cattle. They are excreted in large numbers in the animal's milk and the urine and also in the placental fluids, and then it can enter other fluids. Avian influenza or the bird flu. This is caused by a strain of influenza virus, and birds are the host for this disease. Now, one was which I cited in the year 2007, 8 and 9. Then again in 2013 to 17 there were more than 1000 human cases of the H7N9 which was reported by the World Health Organization. Most of the infected people, they had visited the poultry market or they had consumed the contaminated poultry product, and they were handling the dead and infected birds. So this transmission is not human to human, but it occurs from the bird to human, and also the bird droppings and secretions which occur outside the eggs, that can also transmit the disease. Swine fever. So as the name indicates, it is due to the infected pigs. It is also referred to as the hog cholera. It is a viral disease contagious among the swine and the pigs. It is caused by the pestivirus of the family Flaviviridae. It has been reported in the 19th century in the United States, and in 1997 there was an outbreak of flu in the Netherlands which killed 11 million pigs. So this disease is transmitted, or the virus is transmitted through the saliva, through the nasal fluids, urine and the feces of the swine. Human beings are infected when we come in contact with this infection and contaminated feed, clothing, vehicles and so on. And unfortunately the virus can also survive in pork and the processed pork products for months and years, even when it is preserved in the freezer. So that means it is even tolerant to the colder temperatures. Lyme disease. So this is a bacterial disease and it is caused by the Borrelia burgdorferi. It is transmitted by the bites of the infected ticks. Ticks can become infected by feeding on the infected rodents. This is very common in the United States, and one of the most common tick-borne disease in United States. Then the classic type or the symptom of the Lyme disease is the bull's eye rash, which starts at the site of that tick bite. Then like any other zoonotic disease, it can be accompanied by fever, headache, muscle ache, certain joint pains, and if it is left untreated, then it can result in the recurring joint pain, heart disease and also the nervous system disorders. Animals like dogs and horses can also develop the Lyme disease. Lymphocytic choriomeningitis. Now this primary host of this virus is the mouse, that is the mice and the mouse that we find at home. The pet rodents can become infected when they come in contact with the wild mice which are infecting certain places. So the human beings, when they come in contact with the exposure to the rodent urine, droppings, the saliva or the nesting material, they can contract the disease, and it may be very similar to the flu, and it can also be highly chronic leading to meningitis, which is an inflammation of the brain's lining and the spinal cord tissues. Cat scratch disease. As the name indicates, this is transmitted from the young cats and the kittens, and it is caused by the Bartonella species. Young cats and the kittens can be the source for the human infection. So when they scratch and bite a human, then the infection can be transmitted by between cats and also with the fleas. The infected flea droppings on the cat's fur are the source of the human infection. So on the fur, the flea will transmit the disease. Then that is spread from the cat to a human being by when the cat scratches or bites or licks. And rarely it shows illness, but people can develop mild fever and body infection and also certain kinds of skin diseases. The hantavirus. So this was also recently reported in early 2020 in regions in China, that a new virus has emerged. So this is not a new virus, it is a well-known virus, hantavirus, caused by inhaling dust that is contaminated with rodent, deer and mice droppings, urine and their saliva. This also begins with a flu-like symptom, but it worsens, it can result in the shortness of breath due to fluid-filled lungs. So this causes the hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. About 1/3 of all the cases of the hantavirus are fatal, and so therefore we need to have good control measures to prevent the rodents from entering the living areas, and also cleanliness is very important. Finally, the monkeypox, which is less well known. This is an orthopox virus which causes a disease and it looks very similar to smallpox, but it is less severe compared to the smallpox. Now, smallpox was eradicated in the 1980s, but monkeypox still continues to occur in Central and West Africa, and this is also transmitted from animals to humans. So, it is a zoonotic disease and it occurs in the areas near the tropical rainforest where there are animals that carry this special virus. So, dear learners and viewers, in this module we have understood the various zoonotic diseases, and in this we categorize them as the mosquito-borne virus, the tick-borne virus, the tick-borne diseases, and then the flea-borne. Then again we also categorize them as the vector-borne and the non-vector-borne, and we discuss certain epidemics and pandemics also that have occurred. For example, the avian flu, then the swine flu pandemics which are occurred in the past. So, I hope you have had a good understanding of the zoonotic diseases which also cause disease among the human beings by just being in contact with certain animals. Thank you.